One of the things I do a fair amount of is live production. So meetings, conferences, live broadcasts. So I use OBS for that quite a bit. And one of the things that comes up with some of the larger conferences and whatnot is the need to make sure that you know who's speaking on screen. And that's usually done with something like a lower third. Now, usually you make these in advance, and you can make them really fancy animations with keyed out backgrounds and special effects and that kind of stuff. When you do that, you know who's going to be speaking, you make them all in advance, and you're ready to go with them when the time comes. However, when you're talking about live, it doesn't always go according to plan. So one of the things that I've been on the lookout for is a way to make dynamic and interesting, visually engaging lower thirds on the fly, mostly because I've needed to. And one of the things that I noticed in OBS 27, which is currently in beta, is that you can do individual transitions on each source. So you can actually do dynamic lower thirds entirely in OBS. Of course, you can do more than just lower thirds, but look at that. That's entirely created inside the software. So let's take a look at how. So here is my installation of OBS. Make that lower third go away. And so here you can see that I have a lower thirds nested scene, which is what I actually use. That's the one that's hotkeyed or set up on, in my case, a Stream Deck. We're going to get rid of that for the moment, and we're going to look at this lower thirds group. This lower thirds group is just copied from the nested scene and put here on the desktop capture so that we can see it. And I can also do this. I'll bring it up, and then literally bring it up. And that way we can actually see everything that we're doing. So you can see there's several elements in here. There's a bar that goes across the top. There's a logo. There's the two different bits of text. And then there's the background. But now in OBS 27, each of these different elements can have their own transition coming in and going out. So let's take a look at the bar here, for example. It has a show transition. And that's the transition that plays when that element is activated. And you can see here I have it set to a slide at 200 milliseconds. And if you click on that, up comes the dialog for your standard slide transition, and I have it set to come in from the right. So you'll notice here on the bar that I also have a hide transition set, also a swipe. So when the bar is hidden, it also transitions out. But when you hide the group, the whole group of lower thirds, the lower thirds transition, exit transition here, hide transition, which is a slide, is the one that happens. So if I turn the group transition off, you'll see that the bar just vanishes. Because when you're using it as a group like this, you don't get exit transition, you only get one for the whole group. So the way you make a more dynamic graphic presentation inside of OBS is to change up the timing and the type of animations of each of those different elements. So for example, I have the bar here comes in from the side. The background sort of comes in and slides down. Then the logo comes in much more quickly, and then the text comes in at different speeds. So the whole thing together looks like an animated, like a fancy animation. Then the whole thing slides out together. It actually works pretty well, but there's one other thing that really makes this magic. You may have noticed these little text files over here. These text elements, we open them up here, you can see they take their information from these text files. And what that means is I can change this, save it. So if you have to make a lower third on the fly in the midst of a live presentation, you hide it, you go to your text file, make the changes, and bring it back up. Pretty snazzy, considering that it's entirely inside of OBS. So if you're mobile and you don't have a whole lot of other options, this is a pretty good one. I'm really pleased. Anyway, thanks for watching. If you found it helpful, please consider giving me a like and a subscribe. Really appreciate it as I'm getting started here. We'll catch you in the next video.